Drogo will have no use for dragon eggs in the Nightlands. Sell them. You can return to the free cities and live as a wealthy woman for all your days.
They were not given to me to sell.
Blood of my blood.
A co-worker of mine is in the market for a Dragon Age, and when he discovered that I make props and things like that, he asked me if I would go ahead and make him one. So we are going to look at making a Game of Thrones inspired dragon egg, and these are all my references. Don't have a lot more than I need than these three pictures. It really gives me a good color and what it looks like. And when I was originally looking at this, I thought about making one and casting it in silicone, and then, or making a mold out of silicone and then casting it with resin so I can make duplicates over and over. But we work with foam here, so why would I go outside of that box and make you guys purchase more stuff that's probably going to cost you 50 bucks or more just to follow along with the things we already do here, which is, like I said, working with foam. So instead, we're going to make some patterns and make it out of foam. I'm going to start with this ball. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby's. It might have been $4. And if you ever go to Hobby Lobby, they always have a 40% off coupon. Make sure you look that up, and it'll take it off the highest priced item. And when I was looking at the picture, she's holding the egg in her hand. It's about this size at the bottom, but of course it's egg shaped. So I need to build up the top. In order to do that, the simplest way, use some good old-fashioned aluminum foil. This is heavy duty. It's a little loud, so bear with me. And the best way to work with aluminum foil is to start with it kind of in a loose ball, and then you can kind of squish it more into shape. I'm going to take some tape and hold that into place. Okay, and now I have the general shape that I'm looking for. It's about the right size, and the rest will be templating and then making this out of foam. To make the template, I'm going to wrap this in plastic wrap. You can use regular kitchen grade plastic wrap or whatever, but I have some packaging plastic wrap I'm going to use. Now the plastic just acts pretty much as a protective layer, so your template will come off. This will pretty much be under your template, and then the duct tape that we're going to put over top will be your actual template. I'll keep it from sticking to the aluminum foil and our base shape. Now you can use duct tape or you can use something like masking tape. It's really up to you. I don't have a whole lot of duct tape left. This is all I have on hand. So we'll see how much this will cover. We just ran out of duct tape as soon as I got it covered. So now that we have this shape completely covered, I have a Sharpie, well, an ink marker that will write on here. It's still permanent. And it's just the old-fashioned shake up and dab to make it come out. This will stay on here pretty well. So what I'm going to do is grab a foam ruler that I have just to kind of make a good straight line. Just like that. I'm going to continue that line around. There we go. I'm going to number these 1, 2, 3, 4. It's now quartered. I'm going to make some alignment marks here. These alignment marks are important when trying to make a shape, so we want to make sure they're in there. So we're going to make sure we say A, B, you just peel it like an avocado. Or a free shavacado.
Get to Del Taco. They got a new thing called free shavacado.
Now since this is a symmetrical thing, we can actually only use half and reproduce that half so it's identical on both. That'll get rid of any discrepancy that might be in the other half. So I'm going to take 2 of these, put them to the side, and we'll work with sections 2 and 3 to make our patterns. Now since this is a 3-dimensional object that we're making and we only have a 2-dimensional surface that we're going to begin making this with, this curve is a little difficult to get. You can do a lot of shaping with foam, but there's limitations. So sometimes you have to find a way to flatten your template. So to do that, I cut a dart just like this. As you can see, I have the hash marks that line them up so I can lay it down much flatter for my templates. And now I can put these on construction paper and I'll have my templates. Once you have these on paper, now is the opportunity to go through and fix any of these lines just to make them a little straighter. Because this is just a template, it's your guide. It doesn't have to be 100% of this. It just needs to be as close to this as possible to give you the general shape. So I am just going to fix some of the edges, make them a little smoother. Don't forget to cut out your alignment marks as you go. Now that our templates are cut out, the next thing is to decide what kind of foam we're going to put it on. We can make it out of our thicker foam, or we can use something more like this. This is what I like. This is 5mm Silly Winks foam. Picked up for $1.27 at Hobby Lobby. I always pick up a few every time I go there. And what I like about this is it's smooth on both sides, so you can use either side to work on. It's not necessary to use one of these, but I figure I can get 3 templates on here, because I'm going to do 2 of this and 2 of this. And I'm just going to trace that straight on here with a regular pen. When transferring things over, make sure you're getting all your alignment marks, and again, any notes that you took, such as my lettering, that was for me. It's all been transferred onto the phone. I'm going to mark this side 1A. This pattern is side 1. This will be side 2. So I'm going to need side 1A and B and a side 2A and B to get my 4 sides. Side 1A and side 1B. Got my 4 pieces cut out, and before I actually start doing anything with these as far as gluing them together, I'm going to kind of heat form them a little bit to make them a little easier to work with. I want them to be roundish because these ends all have to come together. And I don't want this to be a big bow. I want it to be as round as possible. So I've got this ball that I can use, which was the same ball I used to make my template. I'm just going to heat these up and use this to kind of give it some shape. Now it's kind of like a flower petal. Now that all 4 of my sections have been cut out and heat formed, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this dart that I cut in. I've already applied 2 layers of barge rubber cement and allowed each layer to dry. So now it's tacky enough to go ahead and stick. And with barge you get that instant bond. So I want to make sure that it's as curved as possible. So I'm going to use the ball again as my edge so I can try to keep this straight as possible. And I'm going to do my best to keep these lines lined up. Hence, that's the reason I marked them to begin with. Sometimes you have to do a little pushing and pulling. Get those lined up. Make sure it's pushed together really well because this contact cement needs the contact. And there's one piece, hardly any seam there. Okay, so there's the first one. I'm going to repeat that for the remainder. Now that my quarters are done, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I get the right sides as I'd marked them. B goes with C, and the hash marks pretty much line up all the way up to the top. And I'm going to add glue on this side, so I'll have 2 full halves of my egg, and then once that's done we'll connect the 2 halves to make a hole. Again, we're just shooting for 2 thin layers. If you're a little too much, use an old piece of foam. Some of that off of there, because contrary to what you might feel, having thick layers does not work better than having 2 thin layers. Just for some reason doesn't hold any better, and it ends up being just a waste of glue. This is all good and dry, and it's a little easier to work with because I don't have that as much of a risk of the seam pulling apart because the glue has set. I went over both pieces with the heat gun just a little bit, staying away from the glue as much as possible, just to kind of make the shape pop up, and I realized something. When I traced my patterns, I did both the same sides. I didn't flip it over for the reversed. So actually, I have two identical sides, which would be great if everything was 100% symmetrical, but it's never 100%. So what I did was I turned one inside out. So this was the inside, now it's the outside. And that way, it's a little more of a mirror, where one's long on one side, the other one will kind of compensate or whatever. So, just something to consider. It may have worked without, but I've already flipped it, I've already invested, so that's what we're doing. So I decided I'm going to stick this together with some tape. Just one half. And work on one half at a time. And I might actually use super glue, that's what I meant to say. Why super glue? Well, because this is going to be a difficult shape to maintain, control it over, and make sure everything lines up. So I think I'll have a little bit better control over super glue. Alright, now I only have one side to work with, and the other one will stay still. So I'm just going to do a small piece at a time. I'm going to start up here, add some super glue all the way up to the edge, because I want that seam to be captured. I'm not go too far down. Here's the shape I have. It's not 100% perfect, but if it's going to be sitting as a display, this odd shape will be fine, because I'll actually flatten the bottom a little bit, and this will be what is seen. So I've got a pretty good egg shape. I've gone over it with my heat gun just to kind of let everything relax back out into the shape that it's going to be. And now I'm just going to take my rotary tool and I'm going to clean up all the seams. Now, of course, cleaning up the seams is just the verbiage we use to take a seam that's like this, where it's not really flush, and we make it more smooth like this. It kind of helps hide the seam. Now, the better you put these pieces together at the beginning, the less cleanup you'll have. But with an odd shape like this, it's really difficult to get everything to line up perfectly, so there will be a little bit of maintenance required. So I'm just going to continue cleaning these seams up. Going back to my reference images, I'm just going to get an idea of the detail of this, and I'm just going to draw it on. I've already marked a line along the bottom where the scales kind of stop, and it's real dimply, as you can see. So that's where my scales are going to stop. So I'm just going to start at the top and start drawing them on using my reference image. Now my options here are to continue drawing the scales on like this and then carving it out, or I can take a thinner layer of foam and make scales and then glue them down. Since this will take a whole lot more skill to actually carve into this and to have a good product, I think we're going to go ahead and show you the other way. I just wanted to show you this way as well, that you can just carve it right with your Dremel tool. I would use a smaller bit, a little stone bit maybe with a pointy tip, something like this, to go in and start carving this down a little bit. But that gets a little bit difficult to do unless you're really good with your Dremel. So I'm going to show you an alternative.